I had to make what seemed like the toughest decision of my entire life, but in the end, it ended up becoming the easiest. And it was the move I made to IMG Academy. But I didn't always know that it would work, because 6 weeks into being there, I thought everything was over. My first game, I missed 5 tackles, had a touchdown scored on me, and I thought my road to D1 was simply over. Because when I was in it, it felt like everything I had done, I failed. My parents invested so much for me to get there. I had to move away from my entire family at 16 years old to somewhere I've basically never been before, and had to chase this dream and this vision that I had of mine. And the thing was, I didn't have to. At Green Bay Southwest, my sophomore year, I was the best player on the team. I went all conference both ways as a sophomore, and it looked like I was on the surefire path to going D1. I was getting invited to all these Power 4 camps. I was getting news articles written about me. The news came to our game, and I felt like I was on the right path to going D1. But the longer that I thought about it, I started to realize that maybe this wasn't the case. Because in Green Bay, Wisconsin, I knew I was good. But what I did start to realize is that I was a big fish in a small pond. And I realized this in my sophomore year during one specific game in particular. We had an FBS coach coming out to watch us, me and a teammate. And I'd done really well, actually. Had a touchdown, had a forced fumble, and like 2 sacks. And I thought the school was going to offer me right there. Sometime that week, I was hearing the call, "Hey, Jacob, we're about to offer you and give you your first D1 offer." And I was excited. I was ready for it because I balled out. My teammate talked to the coach. He said I was a beast out there. I was ready to go. And I didn't hear from that school for another 6 months. And I'd done just about everything I could that game, had one of the best games of my life, actually. It made me think about something for a second. That maybe there really were levels to football, and that I was just a big fish in a small pond. I did everything I could, or what it felt like at the time, and this FBS school did not care for anything. They did not want to see me, never talk to me again. And I could have been comfortable staying there and just believe that, I had time, and that eventually things would pan out. I'd keep getting better, and I'd get closer and closer to playing D1 football each year as I naturally progressed, naturally did my work. I worked harder than everyone else, but the hard work didn't owe me anything. It didn't owe me a D1 offer. It didn't owe me to go all-state the following year, and it didn't owe me all of my dreams. It was just a prerequisite for me achieving the goals that I wanted. And the thing was, when I started to realize that, I knew that it was time for a change. And I knew that IMG Academy was the move for me, because I'd been out there one time before and I knew a little bit about it. And I knew at some point that if I was serious, I would have to make the move. And that decision of seeing, man, this game, I did everything I could, I didn't get the offer, was what pushed me over the edge to make that decision. And it wasn't easy. I still had no clue what was going to happen at IMG. I had no guarantees. I didn't know if I was going to play. I didn't know what to expect. There was no guarantee of an offer. I had to leave my home at 16, and my parents had to invest tens of thousands of dollars into this decision for nothing in return, nothing guaranteed. And it was tough. It was tough. It was a really, really hard decision until I understood this one thing. I looked into the future. Myself, after my senior game, the last game at Southwest, at my school I was at, I envisioned myself sitting right there on the field with the season done, whether we won or lost. And I thought about what that would feel like. And I saw myself having a great season, everything like that. But I also saw one thing. I wasn't D1. Because I knew in that environment and everything I was doing would not get me to where I wanted to go. Because the environment I was in, the coaching I was getting, the training I was getting, I knew all of it was not enough to get me where I wanted to go. And I realized that I was that big fish in that small pond and had to make a drastic change. And I could have decided to stay comfortable at Southwest. Sure, things might have worked out, but I saw a vision that I didn't think they would. And if I decide to stay comfortable and be like, man, I got time, I can keep working hard and it'll just happen, hard work owes me that success, then it would have never happened, because I wouldn't have done every single thing possible in my abilities to make it D1. I would have gotten comfortable. I would have thought I was owed something and can pull off the gas, because I didn't give myself every single opportunity. I left stones unturned. I didn't do everything that I could. And in reward, I don't think I would have went D1. I had to give myself every opportunity and had to give myself every chance to make it. And when I started to see that, and I saw myself at the end of my senior year with no offers, there was nothing else to weigh, because the decision at the end, it wasn't hard. The decision wasn't actually the hard part. The hard part was seeing it clearly what would happen if I didn't make the decision, and being real with myself and being able to say, I will not make it if I do not make this decision. And the second that I realized that, that's when I decided that it was time for me to make the move. It was easy because I saw clearly the consequences if I decided not to take this action. I knew exactly where that landed me, and I knew I'd be living with a lifetime of regret if I decided to stay comfortable and not make this decision. Still wasn't easy. There was a lot of doubts. As I had no clue what I was getting into. There was no guarantees, but I knew I could commit to it, and it didn't even have to be the perfect solution, because I knew I was going to work as hard as I possibly could, harder than I was even working at Southwest, to figure it out and make it work. I gave myself no choice. I burned the bridges. I had to leave everyone at home, my friends, my family, my head coach. He wanted me to stay. He tried convincing me to stay at Southwest, even after I'd made the decision. And I could have listened. It would have been the more comfortable option. Would have went all state, 150 tackles, 200 tackles, been the man at the school. And I left all that for a guarantee of absolutely nothing. But that's what it took for me to be here now, living out my dreams, and you hearing this story. Because when you make decisions that are tough like that, it's going to make this story better in the end, and it's going to give you the opportunity to actually achieve what you want. And all of that pushed me over the edge to get there. And of course, it didn't start great with missing the 5 tackles and 1 touchdown. But I ended my time at IMG with 2 school records, with 142 tackles in a season and 40 tackles for a loss, and now playing Division I football at Furman University, the goal I had the entire time. The only difference between me and you was making the decision. And the decision isn't the hard part. It's just seeing it clearly where you'll be when you do make the decision and when you don't. Because I knew when I went to IMG, I was burning the bridges and I had no choice but to succeed, and I would do anything it took to get there. And that's why I'm sitting in front of you now. But I also understood even more vividly on the other side if I didn't make the decision. If I decided to stay at Southwest, I wouldn't have made it D1, and I would have lived with a lifetime of regret. And I understood that even more clearly than the success, because that hurt more and scared me more. That allowed me to actually make this decision and get to where I am now. Because if I never made that, you would never know my name. You wouldn't be sitting here watching this. You wouldn't be hearing my story. And odds are, if you've made it this far, there's a decision in your life that you know you have to make. And the decision isn't the hard part. You know what's right, and you know what's going to help you get to where you want to go and achieve that dream that you've been chasing, a dream that's so scary you won't even say it out loud. You know the decision that you have to make. But what's actually going to push you over the edge is being able to see so clearly, where will I be when I make the decision, and what happens if I don't make the decision. It becomes unbelievably easy when you can see with crystal clarity what is going to happen on both sides. Because at the end of the day, there's no decision to make at that point. It is simply to take action and start doing the work that is required to get you that goal. Thank you guys for listening, and I give you courage and grace to make the decision that you need to make to achieve the goals that you want.